Up next, continuing in our program, we have a friend of mine, Jen Miller, who is a marketing professor. She started multiple brands as well as taught about starting multiple brands. And we're continuing in our process of building a website. So Maziar started us off with how to grow your WordPress website. Now Jen's going to talk to us about how to create brand equity and build a brand that lasts. As you begin to build your website and build your brand, she's going to walk us through a case study of some of the things that she did when she created her brand. So please joining me in welcoming Jen Miller.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here to share with you ways you can create brand equity, building a brand that lasts. Before we get too deep, let's talk about what brand equity is. Brand equity is when your brand becomes lasting, recognizable, when a simple icon reminds people of what you've created. I'm sure you have several brands that come to mind when you think of that. It's when your brand leaves behind a legacy and saves a spot in someone's mind. Let's talk for a minute about the word legacy. When I launched my marketing agency over a decade ago, I didn't have venture capitalists sitting around offering to bankroll me. I had a very shoestring budget. But I did have conviction. I had business sense, and I had people who believed in me. I knew that in order to be successful, what I needed most was an objective accountability partner. And so I invested in a business coach as my first business expense. On our first call, my coach heard about my business idea and then asked some deep questions about my intent. I remember one of the words I used to describe my hopes and vision. I said I wanted a business that was a legacy. I wanted to create a business my children could be involved with and even work in. I hope that years from that day, they might even run the business because I'd created brand equity, a lasting brand, a brand that became an asset. The business I started back then had the goal of connecting people with brands and building communities through written words found on websites. I knew the value of name recognition and wanted to create a name for the business that people would remember, but also something that clearly defined what we did. Thus, Need Someone to Blog was born. Had I hired a team of experts, that wouldn't have been the name for many reasons. It was limiting. It was long, too long, in fact, for a respectable Twitter handle, and it didn't seem catchy at first. Yet it felt good, and it stated our purpose. As our brand set out to serve our clients and community, we ended up doing so in a very powerful way. And the name did become catchy, to the point where people would even sing it to me. You create a lasting brand when you serve. What does it mean to serve as a brand? Well, this acronym breaks it down. S, state your purpose. E, establish your voice. R, reach out and connect. V, verify your brand. E, evolve, but stay consistent. These are the things that serve your brand and bring it equity. They are also things that serve your audience, community, and clients. First, you state your purpose. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? Who will help you? And can you create a mission statement, vision, and strategic goals from that purpose? Can you see it? Can you see your brand? What does it look like? This was the beginning of my brand. It was a logo featuring the website domain, a tagline, be seen, and an icon, green standing for organic and money because we planned to make it, and sunglasses because I knew they'd be an easy swag win. My coach told me to keep it simple. He said, just choose a color and a font. Don't let yourself get distracted. I did a little more than that, but not much more, and it worked. Next, we have E for establish your voice. This is also part of establishing your identity. Since my business was in the business of writing for other people, you might think we didn't have to have our own voice, but we did. We needed to draw people in through stories, through our stories, through content, and through brand personality. We needed images, and we used images to help articulate that voice and communicate it to team members so that they understood what our brand was about. We wanted to be friendly, helpful, smart, inventive, accurate, and trustworthy. What words would you use to describe your brand? What images would you use? Once our purpose, visual assets, and voice were in place, as a brand, we took to the next step to reach out and connect. We didn't only talk to clients, we talked to other business owners and community members. We let people know our purpose and our results and our brand assets. We attended and sponsored events. We even created a jingle which literally shared our voice and purpose and ran radio ads on a friend's station, which surprised me because the ads brought in immediate customers. The jingle actually created an instant connection. I'm going to let you listen into the jingle to see what I mean.
Need someone to black.com, 'cause you don't have the time. You can focus on your job while we plug for you. I know you will see, try it out. Industry will develop voice for your blog to connect with your readers.
So that helps you to understand why people were singing our name back to me and to other members of my team. The song caught on, and it was fun for people to sing and for people to feel a part of our brand. After we had regular business coming in, we had to move to the next step, which was to verify your brand. It is essential to maintain quality control, especially when you have a lot of moving pieces. For me, this meant ensuring that our brand products fit our purpose and commitment of accurate, inventive, trustworthy, original content that would allow clients to be seen using our tagline and gain authority in their communities. We also needed to protect our clients, and this was our process for doing that as a brand. When bringing new clients in, we'd share our reviews that we'd received from current clients. We had all team members sign NDAs, and we signed NDAs for any clients who requested them, transferring copyrights to the client. We protected our clients and brand by defining clear requirements and expectations, purchasing licenses for any materials used, and also maintaining professional liability insurance. We trained and updated team members clearly, establishing standards and consistently checking in on quality as all content was reviewed before it was published. We followed the Russian proverb, trust but verify, to allow our team to grow and gain confidence while still maintaining credibility. And then we repeated it all, every day, everything. And the business and the brand continued to grow. Due to that, changes were needed. We had to evolve but stay consistent. We revised our brand assets slowly and carefully. We soon realized our clients needed more than blogging, so we revised our brand to need someone too, with the tagline, because we do so much more than blogging. And I worked for a while at that, and it just didn't feel as fun and it didn't fit our purpose as well. So we made a change. We relaunched the agency as Next Door Marketer. This felt good since it brought us back to our original purpose of bringing neighbors and communities together. The colors and look of the logo remain constant, and our original Be Seen tagline is often used in the copy. We evolved as a brand and created a legacy. We offer more services than we did in the beginning, and our brand has grown to accommodate those original standards while still maintaining the consistency that built us. That growth has created a lasting brand and created brand equity. That is how brand equity works. It starts with a brand that serves and builds community, and through that process develops a legacy. Brand equity isn't just for my business, it's for every business. Several months back, I received a request to join my neighborhood Facebook page. My neighborhood's made up of about 100 homes. It's not very large. And it seemed frivolous, and yet I wanted to be in the know. I wanted to get to know my neighbors. So I accepted the request, and when I did, I noticed that the admin was a local realtor named Matthew Topey. I didn't know anything else beyond that about him. Today, however, his efforts came to mean something else to me. I was dropping my son off at school, and the car in front of me had a license plate that said Tiff Sells. I was curious, so I looked at the entire car and saw a sticker that showed that she was a real estate agent named Tiffany Topey. Instantly, I smiled as I realized that she was my neighbor and a realtor. Had I not been invited to that community page, I likely would not have made that connection. But I knew it because I'd been invited to the page and then I'd seen her car. That is how brand equity works. It starts with a brand that serves and builds community, and through that process develops a legacy. I hope you all have the opportunity to create brand equity and a legacy that will make you smile. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. The first question I have from the audience: as a new brand that's just getting started, how should I balance focusing on my brand versus my product?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is make sure you have a product that will serve, that will work for your audience, for your clients. Once you have your product figured out, then you need to spend some time, but not a ton of time, making sure that people know who you are. And one of the things that I have found that has been instrumental in building the brand, along with what I talked about in there, was attending events. And now that we're post pandemic times and we can actually be in person, making those connections in person is important.
That's perfect. Thank you. Another question we have here is, can you elaborate a little bit more on how you went about discovering the needs of your audience? I think you mentioned that at one point in your presentation on how you identified and that gave you some direction for how to respond in your marketing.
Yes, part of it was that I got to know my clients. And so I had an sort of interview, a list of questions that I would ask them when they came on to be new clients, of who their market was and what it was that they really needed for us to do so that I understood them. And then we would do research on their specific markets so that we could get very specific in the content we provided for them.
Awesome. Thank you. We got a few other questions. This one is from Vicky. How do you choose a good and affordable coach? You mentioned your coach a couple times.
Okay, well, so my coach um, was someone who I had seen as a speaker, and I didn't even know if he did coaching. And so when I started looking into, I loved how his emails. I was on his email list, and I really felt like we had very similar content uh, processes, and that I thought that he could understand what I wanted to accomplish just from reading his emails. Beyond that, he also was very well known in an industry that I wanted to focus my business around. And so I chose him because he was in that industry, more so than because I even knew what his coaching skills were, because I knew he would have insight into my client's mind. Beyond that, we also he had a 6 week like productivity course, I think it was, and I took that and I learned so much in those 6 weeks that I knew I needed to work with him one on one.
That's perfect. That's amazing. You mentioned a couple times community. For a lot of small businesses or solopreneurs or people that are just starting to get their business off the ground. Can you give any tips on how to find the right community that someone might start interacting with that's right for their business?
Definitely, Devin. So coming to a conference like this, it's online, so you're not shaking hands with people, you're not necessarily forming super tight friendship bonds, but you are seeing who else is here. There's an attendee list. There are people following the hashtag on Twitter. That's a place to start. Hey, I saw you at WP CreatorCon. I'd like to launch my business, and I see that you have a complementary business. Is there something we can do to work together or inspire each other? Can we be accountability coaches to one another? If you have people in your local community, or if you're still in school and you have someone who you really like their comments in class, or you work together on a group project, those are people you can take throughout your life as part of what I call your board of directors.
I love it. And if I could add my own 2 cents to that, I feel like Facebook Market or Facebook groups is a great place. There's a group for everything. And one of my friends was just telling me about how she found a group for collecting rocks locally. Like it was is near where she lived. There's a rock collection group, and so she's loving that. Two more questions, and then we'll sign off and move on with our program. Someone asked. You talked about photos. Any tips on stock photo sites that you'd recommend?
So for my company, we always purchase all of our photos, uh, from stock photo sites, and we maintain those licenses for our clients because what we give them is a collaborative work. We don't just pass on the image. And I use the typical ones. Big stock photo we've used for years because you can get a lot for a smaller amount of cost. And I find that there's a wide variety there, but iStock we use when needed. A lot of what we've done an extra marketer is focused on hyper local content. So we have to be able to get into the neighborhoods, the small segments of locations sometimes. And that requires us to use a variety of different stock vendors. But those probably are the two that I go to the most, or that I know that we've built our business around. And the key to that, regardless of who you use, is that you are paying for that image. You want to have licensing. You cannot pass on something to a client if you have not licensed that work.
Perfect. And this will be our last and final question for you today. Robert asks, can you talk a little bit about personal branding? Maybe some tips on do's and don'ts when you're first starting.
Personal branding, you have to decide what you want to be known for, right? And how that relates to your brand, because your personal brand is a reflection of your corporate or business brand. So for me, there are certain things that I've done. I make sure I'm Jen Miller, MBA at just about every profile you can find me on. And so that's something that's super important. You have to be consistent in how you name yourself on different platforms so people can find you. And you go for the, top 5, maybe the top 10, depending on how much you can manage. I suggest that people start with LinkedIn because that is a professional sphere. So that will naturally build your business as you make connections on it. And then you can go to Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, or I even know people who are building businesses on Snapchat these days. So it just depends on where your audience is that you want to build your personal and your business brand, because they're going to look for both.
I think that brand consistency is absolutely critical in that. Well, Jen, thank you so much for your time today and your presentation. I appreciate you stopping by to share your knowledge and your insights with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devin, for having me.